7 in the NFL, and I'll be honest with you, this may be one of the shorter recaps in recent memory for a week on this show because I did go 12 and 3 in the money line. That puts me at 69 and 38 on the year in the money line. Last year at this time, we had one less game. Of course, bye weeks are different every week. So some weeks are two teams with a bye, like this week the Cowboys and the Bears. Last year, there were four teams at a bye on this time, so we have one less game. But last year, this time, it was 69 and 37 in the money line through 7 weeks. And I did go 3 for 5 in best bets this week. I hit Denver. That was easy, -2.5. Sean Payne's return to New Orleans. Saints have watched 5 in a row. They are who I predicted they are at the beginning of the season, which are frauds. Nailed Philly -3. Again, destroyed the Giants. They own the Giants. Nailed Kansas City +1.5 against San Francisco. Again, I don't understand why they were underdogs. They're the back-to-back champions. They're the only undefeated team in football. They should never be an underdog. I was on the right side of the Rams' victory in the money line, but I was on the wrong side of the spread. I thought the Rams, coming off a bye, would dominate a Vegas team who just got rid of Devontae Adams. There were some issues there with Max Crosby. Nah, that wasn't the case. Raiders played hard. Rams win. Raiders cover. That missed field goal by the Rams actually cost me the cover. Rams won by 5. The spread was 7. And then finally, my one big miss was Atlanta, who Seattle, obviously Kirk Cousins, the fumble that went to a scoop and score. A big play there, obviously. But Seattle came out again after getting beat up by San Francisco, beat up by the Giants, beat up by Detroit. They put a whipping on Atlanta. So this year, for 7 weeks, I'm 20 for 35 in best bets. Last year, I was 21 for 35. So again, we are on pace. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the majority of these games this weekend were a complete blowout. So this is really going to be, I think, more of a narrative-driven recap. As I mentioned, Denver went into New Orleans. I mean, they didn't have any people. Chris Olave was out. Raheem Shaheem's out for the season. Derek Carr is still banged up. They're 2 and 5. Their defense looks atrocious. This is the Saints team I predicted them to look like at the start of the season, not the Saints team that dismantled Carolina and Dallas the first 2 weeks of the season. And Denver, folks, they already have 4 wins. Guess what? I said at the beginning of the year, Vegas over under 5.5 was way too low. I thought Bo Nix was going to have a very good rookie year with Sean Payton. I didn't think Denver was going to be a playoff team, but I thought, they'd be in the mix the last couple of weeks of the season. Here they are again, 4 wins. They only need two more the rest of the season to hit their over. They have another game against the Raiders. Obviously, they have, basically 11 weeks to win 2 games. I think that's going to be an easy over and a where Brandon was right moment. Again, big spot for Denver here. Sean Payton's team motivated to get him the win back in his former team's house. New England, Jacksonville in London. I'll be honest, hindsight's 2020. Maybe I take out Atlanta and put this game in. New England was up 10-0, and Drake May tried his best, but they don't even try to run the football. Ramondre Stevenson with 7 carries. That was it. And at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, who had been there for 2 weeks, getting more comfortable after getting blown out by the Bears in week 6. They bounced back here. Again, they beat a pretty Patriots team that, as Gerard Mayo said, was soft. Bill Belichick came out and said, well, we were number 1 against the run last year. We weren't that soft. Yeah, but Bill, you won 3 games. This team may win 3 games. Listen, their defense is okay. They got some talent. Christian Gonzalez very good at corner. We know what they got in that defensive line. Offensively, Stevenson, again, he's a decent back. They're not really using him. Hunter Henry has actually had a good year at tight end. Besides that, I mean, Pop Douglas can make a play here or there, but New England really does not have any offensive skill position targets. It's going to be a rough go of it for Drake May and company. For Jacksonville, again, nice win. Bryant Thomas is developing as a decent receiver. Now they host Green Bay this week. Green Bay has historically, again, with Aaron Rodgers, struggled in Jacksonville. That'd be a big momentum builder for Jacksonville. Otherwise, who knows? If they lose to Green Bay, then you go to Philly. Doug Peterson's return to Philly. If those two games gone wrong, Doug Peterson may have survived the London trip, but he may not survive much longer. I still don't feel good about Jacksonville's future going forward. Philly just dismantled the Giants. I mean, the defensive line took apart the Giants' offensive line. Daniel Jones really could not for the football. The Giants barely attempted to run the ball. They had only four rushing attempts by a running back in the first half. Daniel Jones cannot throw the football down the field. Everything was short, short, short. And then obviously in Saquon Barkley's return to the Meadowlands, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Cam Urges and Lane Johnson, that offensive line, even without Jordan Mawaya, well, they struggled a little bit in the passing game. Dexter Lawrence got home. Brian Burns got home. They couldn't stop the run. Philadelphia took their will from the Giants. Saquon Barkley rested the whole fourth quarter along with the entire offense. I know you guys saw that clip of Nick Sirianni asking Saquon Barkley basically if he wanted this career high, if he wanted another touchdown. Saquon, the great teammate that he is, wanted to let the young guys and Gainwell and Shipley get some carries. This fourth quarter turned into Kenny Pickett versus Drew Lock. Philadelphia continues their dominance over the New York Giants. Now, Cleveland. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, Achilles injury, he's done. I'll be honest with you, I don't blame the fans for cheering. And as I said, I don't think, as many people have said on television this week, I don't think they were cheering the fact that Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles. I think they were cheering at the fact that number four is no longer the Cleveland Browns quarterback under center. And who knows if he will ever be the Cleveland Browns quarterback under center ever again. DTR was the backup in this game for whatever reason. Really couldn't move the ball. Let the game wait. Jameis Winston now comes in, and we know the history of Jameis Winston, right? He'll throw 30 touchdowns in a season, and he will literally throw 30 interceptions in a season. Let's see if Kevin Stefanski, whose offense, again, more built on being under center, will run the football with Nick Chubb, who did return. He did score a touchdown. Get the play action pass on it. Let's see the Browns, who are 1-6 and are abysmal here, taking on their arch rival Baltimore Ravens, who have just won five in a row after dismantling Tampa Bay last night. Let's see if by any grace of God, Jameis Winston can make this team watchable. Bengals win at 21-14. Jamar Chase had a touchdown. Joe Burrow didn't have a great game. He never has a great game against Cleveland. Bengals defense is mostly clamped down on a bad Browns offensive football team. Again, not a great watch. So Buffalo struggled against Tennessee in the first half, then they poured it on in the second half. Sort of been Buffalo's specialty under Sean McDermott, where week to week you don't really know if you can trust them, and then by the end of the day they just take care of the Tennessee Titans. Mason Rudolph had a good first half. I think Buffalo may have been a little bit surprised by the fact he was in there and not Will Levis. Will Levis apparently suffered an ACL sprain or AC joint sprain, excuse me, like 2 weeks ago and still played last week. Tennessee's a bad football team. They got weapons. They need a quarterback and they need a defense. Buffalo just took care of business here, 34-10. Again, it was a large spread. The spread was 8.5, but Buffalo obviously able to take care of it. Indianapolis, Miami, that was such a horrible watch. I mean, Miami, I talked about it. I don't think Tua should be playing the quarterback position ever again in the National Football League, especially with, 3 to 4 major concussions in the past 2 seasons. But Miami, stupidly, in my opinion, did not have a backup plan at quarterback, and Tyler Huntley ain't it, and they can't move the football offensively. And for Indianapolis, I've said it. You got Joe Flacco there, who obviously replaced Deshaun Watson midway through last season at the end of the year in Cleveland. Anthony Richardson can make incredible throws, and he misses all the layups. I mean, I think at one point he was like 6 of 15 for 100 yards. I mean, it was absolutely insane. I don't know how I feel about the Colts outlook because Anthony Richardson has not been good at all in a game this year. But at the end of the day, Colts are winning. They're right there with Houston in the AFC South Division because Houston lost to Green Bay in a great game where Jordan Love significantly outdueled CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud didn't even have 100 yards passing in this game. Green Bay winning with the walk-off field goal 24-22. The spread on this game was, about right. Green Bay was favored by 2.5, so Houston covered by a half a point. The hook got you there. There's a reason why I did not pick this game. Green Bay starts to look like they're getting their flow a little bit on offense, and Houston just, I don't know, like ever since the start of this year, yeah, they ran the football well with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon got two more touchdowns this week. Joe Mixon's been an absolute beast, but he's pretty much been a savior, for CJ Stroud this year because Stroud has not had a very good year. And Tank Dell, another week this year where he was absent after the big game against New England, he has 0 catches for 0 yards this week. And without Nico Collins, you're really relying on Stephon Diggs to be that guy along with Tank Dell and Dome Schultz. And, they still have John Mechie. Like, Houston is not for the lack of talent here. And obviously, their defense, getting in there, getting some pressure on Jordan Love. But CJ Stroud has just not been as consistent this year as you would like, especially going into the year. Bottom line is for Houston, though, I mean, they should be fine. I think they're still trying to iron out the kinks with this Stephon Diggs in the offense. And obviously, their division, Tennessee and Jacksonville to me are out of it. And Indianapolis, they already beat once this year. And again, their quarterback play has been shaky. Okay, probably the best game of the weekend, actually. I know for sure the best game of the weekend. Lions Vikings. So this was one of the games I missed on the money line. The Lions won, obviously, in incredible comeback fashion. Minnesota got up 10-0 early. Detroit fired off then 14 straight. I think it was even 21 straight. David Montgomery goes down. Jahmyr Gibbs goes off. David Montgomery gets back in the game. And this was a great game for both teams. I said going into the weekend, this was a game I just wanted to watch. Lions Vikings always play close games. I wanted to see that Brian Flores defense against an elite offense. I wanted to see Jared Goff continue his hot streak of essentially making every pass he can make. I wanted to see Detroit's pass rush without Aiden Hutchinson, and if they got shredded, and if they need to make a move. And I'll say, I think Detroit struggled early. Obviously, Aaron Jones, the big touchdown run to the outside. Um, but I think the Lions, they may be fine without Aiden Hutchinson. They're getting a lot of production from guys out there. We know their secondary isn't great. I don't think their secondary will ever be great. And I think that this shows that Minnesota, they're going to win, I think, 10, 11, 12 games this year. I don't think they're a fluke. Now they're bringing back TJ Hockenson, we think, this week against the Los Angeles Rams. That's a Thursday night game, which, of course, I'll give my predictions for on Thursday. But you add Hockenson to that mix of Aaron Jones, who has been a huge beneficiary of being back there in that offense with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, with Naylor now developing at that receiver position. So I think Minnesota will be fine. The NFC North is going to beat up on each other here because most of their division games are in the back half of the schedule. But what a great game and what a gritty win for the Dan Campbell Detroit Lions, who I definitely think right now are the best team in the NFC. And I think you can make a case. They're right there with Kansas City. And remember, that was my Super Bowl pick going into the year was Chiefs Lions. And the Lions, after that week 2 disaster against Tampa Bay, they finally started developing their identity beginning in week 4 against Seattle, which is running the football, play action pass under center using that big, powerful offensive line. And that is really what Detroit did. Seattle, Atlanta, again, Seattle, they bounced back after getting their tails whipped 3 weeks in a row by Detroit, by the Giants, by San Francisco. They take apart an Atlanta team who, I mean, this game was close. It was 17-14 early third quarter. Geno Smith just had one of the best games of his career. And I don't know if it's a dome thing, but Seattle just looked faster. And again, they looked ready to play. And Atlanta, just for whatever reason, the turnovers by Kirk Cousins, the interception, the fumble return for a touchdown, really blew this game wide open. I think Atlanta's still good. The benefit for Atlanta here is they're starting to get Kyle Pitts the football. Bijan Robinson is actually being used not only in the run game, but in the passing game every single week. Kirk Cousins is looking more in control of that offense under center. Uh, but I do think that for Atlanta, like their defense, while like Seattle is what's going to hold them back this year. I thought these two teams were mirror matches of each other. Seattle just made more plays on Sunday in the ATL. Now, obviously, I don't even need to talk about Carolina. They're a disaster. They got whooped 40-7 by Washington. The only story here in this game is the Jaden Daniels story. How healthy will he be? The NFL flexed Bears Commanders to that 425 window, taking out Philadelphia and Cincinnati for that high profile matchup here midway for the season between the number one and two overall pick, with the Bears coming off a bye now going into Washington. Mariota did play well in his relief, but again, it is against the Panthers. And as my theory always says, sometimes in garbage time, when teams aren't prepared for you, you can have a good game. When you make that start, um, the next week and Mariota has to. I don't love Washington's chances. Their defense is still not great. They just beat up on a bad Carolina team. But what it shows you is Washington is slowly every single week becoming for real. Okay, as I mentioned, Rams got off to a slow start. Second half, they really dominated the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell left early. Gardner Minshew came in, threw three interceptions. Like it was bad. The Raiders are bad. They're looking for a quarterback. Again, everybody loves Antonio Pierce, raw guy, defensive coach. He really got the Raiders playing well. And his answer quarterback is Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. We're fine. No, you're not. Now, the Rams here, that's their second win of the season. They're going to get Cooper Kupp back. They're going to get Puka Nacua back. Kupp may come back as early as this Thursday night. The Rams got a tough schedule. They still got Seattle twice. They still got Arizona once. They got San Francisco once in their own division. Philadelphia is still on there on the schedule. I believe that the likes of Tampa Bay is still up there on that schedule. So, for the Rams, it's going to be tough. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but I certainly think they could be a better second half team as long as everybody gets healthy. Now, I said I think the Chiefs is better than the Niners, and even though the score was 28-18, it didn't do it justice. Patrick Mahomes threw two interceptions, and the Niners did not score a single point off it. And Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL, which may be karma for San Francisco. Him holding out a lot like Deshaun Watson and what's been going on in Cleveland. Sometimes karma has the ability to bite you in the butt. Deebo Samuel missed this game with an illness, and without Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy does not look like the same quarterback. And against the best defense in the world, this defense is absolutely incredible. They just don't give up more than 20 points a game. And Patrick Mahomes is not had to be perfect. And they lost Juju Smith-Schuster. And they don't have Rashid Rice. And Travis Kelce, at least in the regular season, because they're saving him on a pitch count, is not as explosive as he used to be. And yet they just run the football with Kareem. They get the ball in McCall Hardman's hands. They get the ball in Justin Watson's hands. Patrick Mahomes makes a great run from the 1 yard line, and you look up, and the Chiefs are dominating. And the Chiefs are the only undefeated team. They did have their bye week already, so they are 6-0 in the NFL. And again, San Francisco, the Super Bowl loser hangover is real here. I don't think they're done, even at 3-4. Like, I still think they're a playoff team. I think the line right now is around 4 to 4.5 against Dallas. Yes, Dallas is coming off their bye, but San Francisco is angry and they own Dallas and they know it. I think it's probably going to be another beatdown on Sunday Night Football this week, the way it was last year on Sunday night. And I think San Francisco can still turn around their season, but they're going to have to start stacking W's. Right now, that NFC West, to be honest with you, is looking wide open with Arizona, Seattle, Rams all winning, San Francisco losing. Speaking of blood on Sunday night, so the Jets went up 15-3. Everybody was making a joke about Jeff Albrecht dropping his challenge flag. They get the touchdown anyways. Everything's all good in New York. And then the two interceptions happen. And the Jets completely fall apart. And Devontae Adams does not catch a ball in the second half. And the Jets are who we thought they were. And Robert Saleh, even though Jeff Albrecht was calling the defense, Robert Saleh was clearly the leader of that defense, because the defense has not been the same since Robert Saleh. And that's the concern for me for the Jets. It's not that it's New England this week because they could be New England on their own. It's not that they played Jacksonville later in the year. Like they got some W's coming their way, and they got the talent. And I think Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, slowly going to come along. You saw on that offensive drive where they did get the touchdown after the incredible screen play by Brees Hall. You saw Devontae Adams touch the ball. You saw Garrett Wilson touch the ball. You saw Brees Hall get in there. You saw some of the pieces there for the Jets come to develop. The key is going to be how does that defense react because Jeff Ulbrich is not holding up well with in-game decision making and also calling the defense. The Jets are the Jets, as Bill Belichick would say. Woody Johnson is Woody Johnson. And on the Steelers side of things, we all said we don't know if there was going to be any improvement with Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. The improvement is there, at least for one night. Down the field, deep ball down the sideline. They were actually making throws down the field with George Pickens. Najee Harris, after the last couple of years, looking like he had no burst. Jaylen Warren looking like he was the best running back on the team. Now Jaylen Warren's almost irrelevant because Najee Harris does have his burst back. Russell Wilson, from essentially snap one, was in control of the offense. And, as I said going into this year, I thought if Russell Wilson didn't get hurt, this was his job to lose. Also, because no one's talking about it, if Justin Fields plays less than 50% of the snaps this season, Pittsburgh only has to give up a 6th round pick to Chicago. If he plays more than 50%, they have to give up a 4th round pick to Chicago. So that's a factor to me. I do think for the Steelers' sake, you can't be playing musical chairs, right? Mike Tomlin knows this. They dominated the Jets. They were embarrassed at home against Dallas. That was a weird game that was delayed, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever it was a couple of Sunday nights ago. They didn't want to get embarrassed in primetime again, and they had the opportunity here to undress both New York teams on primetime as they play the Giants at home next Monday night. Okay, so Tampa, the bigger story here is losing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Obviously, Godwin on the last play of the game when the game was already over. You know, players want to play. They generally don't pull guys, but if you're down 10, maybe you just run the football there. We see this happen all the time. It's why they always say you don't go chase points, you don't go for records and things like that because injuries can happen. It's one of the reasons why Saquon Barkley did sit down in that Eagles Giants game. It's unfortunate for Tampa because their offense was rolling, and even though Baker did for a couple interceptions in the red zone last night, they still put up 31 points. And that game was the way I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a shootout. Obviously, Derrick Henry just completely dominated the second half. After 20 yards rushing, he ends up with 159 total for the game. Lamar Jackson is once again playing at an MVP level. And, early in the year, we talked about Jaden Daniels, even as a rookie, potentially winning MVP. We talked about the first 3, 4 weeks, Josh Allen being in that MVP conversation. Right now, and again, Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns this year, believe it or not. So I don't know if he's going to be in the conversation. Jared Goff doesn't have the numbers, even though he should be in the conversation with how well he's playing. Completion percentage wise, a lot of their touchdowns come on the ground. I think Lamar Jackson is again the MVP so far this season. He could win back to back and his third MVP, in his 7 or so seasons in the National Football League. That Baltimore offense is clicking on all cylinders. And the loss of Marlon Humphrey may be big. And for Tampa now, they play Atlanta. Remember that great Thursday night game a couple of weeks ago? Now they walk Orange in Tampa Bay. Atlanta's coming off a bad loss, so maybe they were looking ahead of the Tampa Bay game. They're going to play better. Tampa Bay is also coming off a loss, but these two teams know. New Orleans is now out of it, in my opinion. Carolina obviously out of it. These are the two teams in contention for the NFC South. Going to be a great battle on Sunday. And that's the last time these two teams play throughout the rest of the year. And Tampa losing that first game. If Atlanta wins, they'll get the outright head-to-head tiebreaker, obviously 2-0 over Tampa. So this game, even without potentially Tampa's two big receivers, means more to Tampa Bay. And then Arizona was, now be honest, didn't see really any of these games besides highlights. I don't have ESPN Plus, really don't care. I said if Arizona got Marvin Harrison Jr. back, this was a weird game for the Chargers. Arizona coming off that bad loss. Arizona will play good one week, bad one week, good one week, bad one week. They got humiliated by Green Bay. In prime time, they were going to bounce back, kick a game winning field goal. They win it 17-15. Again, my only three misses in the money line were Jets, Vikings, and Falcons. My misses in best bets, Atlanta, I double missed on because I betted them. But when it came to the Rams, I bet them -7. They only won by 5 points. Like that clip from the Bridgewater podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Bridgewater podcast right here on YouTube.